Hello everyone, I welcome you all in this digital platform of Integrated Edu Systems New Delhi. Today we are going to discuss some of the very important topics of the current affairs from the month of September. But before that, I would like to convey some messages, some very important things about this preparation journey. What happens that many of us, those are generally in the preparation journey, they mainly encounters with many of the current affairs contents, as we are also providing, and other institutions and various publications are also there to serve the or render the informations regarding current affairs. But what is important for the civil services preparation is that ability to extract the current affair. This is one of the art that cannot be given through any content, or that cannot be provided by any publication, but it is to develop by our own. So with this note, I would like to convey that the purpose of current affairs discussion with all you guys is not to give you the current affairs or tell you that what are the important topics that are going around us, but to give you the insight that how to extract out the current affairs which are going to be very important for the civil services examination. We might have been appeared previous year's civil services examination in the year 2020 or 2021, where we have seen that in that era, in that year, the COVID was very much in the news. But everybody knows, every nook and corners where the discussion were about the COVID-19 and its pandemic and its repercussion across the country and globe. Every person might have been aware of that it originated from the China or from the Wuhan. Everybody knows that virus known as the corona. But UPSC also asked in the year 2020 and 2021 in specifically about the COVID-19. But the perspective, the dimension was not about the origin or the name of the virus, but UPSC asked by the questioning that ACE2 receptor has been in the news and it is related to. So there were 4 options, that it is one of the option was that it is one of the hybrid variety, but the correct answer was that it is one of the viral disease spreading receptor. So this is how to extract and what to extract, which is going to be very much important for us, so that our preparation become efficient and we can save our precious time. So with this, I would like to start today's discussion, that is worth to know current affairs session, and in this session we are going to have some of the very important topics. And topic for today, we can have here Office of Profit issue, thereafter freebies and representation of people Act 1951, the Aashwasan campaign against TB, and Jezero crater that has been in the news, and Sino India border disputing points. So these are going to be the today's agenda or business to discuss about. The very first news is the allegation of violating the Office of Profit against the Chief Minister of Jharkhand. The Chief Minister of Jharkhand, the Hemant Soren ji, had been in the limelight because of the some allegations against him. So what were the allegations? Before that, if this is the news regarding the governance and state administration and state governance domain, then it is going to be the part of GS paper 2 in the mains, and the prelims as well, it will be also important. Now what were the issues? The very first issue was in the origination or the origin of this issue was in the year 2019, when Chief Minister, while the chairing the state or as being a Chief Minister, allocated himself a mining lease of the cheap stones, that is one of the building material generally used for. And later on there were allegation of allocating himself, and that amount to be the violation of Representation of People Act 1951, and that the become of that triggering point of the allegations, as well as followed by the investigation and cross checks by the Election Commission of India. It not only jeopardized the position as a Chief Minister of Jharkhand, but as well as it also implicated the membership as a member of Legislative Assembly Jharkhand. So what happened in this particular scenario? It is not going to be interested for the UPSC that asking the question from the political spectrum or political point of view, but UPSC will be interested asking the question from the constitutional as well as legal provisions regarding the office of profit. So in our constitution, Article 191 regarding the office of profit, that states that any of the member cannot be enjoying the office of profit if he assumes or he have a position of a legislature in the any state, and the same with the Article 102 for the member of parliament in the center. And side by side, according to the RPA 1951, it states that whenever the file is submitted to the Election Commission through a returning officer while filing for a candidature prior to the election, the person who is willing to contest for the elections, then he or she has to submit every detail about his own as a person, that is biodata, as well as every occupation he or she holding for. So when elections were happening in the Jharkhand, at that time Chief Minister of Jharkhand Hemant Soren ji hadn't submitted and hadn't disclosed that he is owning any mining lease. So that amounts or that become a basis to the go after implicating this particular provision of RPA 1951. So that become a violation point. Now EC recommends disqualification from MLA, that is the Election Commission of India come into the picture, that why the Chief Minister of Jharkhand hadn't disclosed this very serious thing, and therefore the Governor of State asked to the Election Commission of India to look into the matter and investigate accordingly. So that comes power at that best power to the Election Commission of India under the Article 192, because that states that Governor of State has to consult and act according to the recommendation or opinion of the Election Commission of India regarding disqualification of any MLA or MLC. So therefore that become one of the major limelight and burning issues in recent times. Apart from that, what is important, that office of profit. Now where it originates from? Then we learned that it originates from English Act of Settlement 1701. Why this is important? Because before that no any sort of information or any sort of any documentation regarding this office of profit has been ever discussed. So in this English Act of Settlement 1701, where it states that the person who is holding or being a member of House of Commons cannot be a part of monarchical system or the chief governing council of the crown, in the sense that if the person holds office of or as a position in the member of House of Commons, then it can create some influences to the governing council of the crown, because crown is one of the executive body and House of Commons in the Westminster system is one of the legislature. So this with this perspective or this idea that they may interfere or influence the decision of the monarch, so that they were banned from holding two offices at the same time. And no any definition in across the Indian legislative system or Indian legal system had been there. So if we as a layman, what can be a office of profit, then we can conclude from some Supreme Court judgments as well as some debate and discussion across Parliament, where we can conclude from that a position which yielding salaries, prerequisites and privileges in the government, which can't be held by the MLA or MP as they hold the government accountable for its functioning. So ultimately, what is the idea? That is the principle of separation of power. So it's very important in the mains GS2, where principle of separation of power is one of the subtopic, and frequently every year or other these questions that generates from this particular subtopic. So this is very much important that we need to understand and develop a comprehension that how to separation of power works in India, because three organs of the government, they are separated from each other, and everybody or every organ or every entity is supposed to work under and along or up to its own regime or its own boundary limits. But there are some exceptions where we can see in the separate topic or of the discussion. But here some exemption from the office of profit is that the minister, especially council of ministers, whether it is in the state or in the central legislature or central government, they are exempted from it, and their offices are not supposed as the office of profit. Side by side, they are also MLAs or MPs, but still they are the ministers. Besides it, the sitting governors and president and vice presidents are also, these positions are not supposed or considered as the office of profit. Why? Because this particular thing come when the any vice president fill a form for the president post or again for the vice president, or any governor filing a candidate form or contesting for the vice president or president position or that post, then obviously that for that high office they are not barred from contesting that particular election, because side by side they are holding a governor that designation, as well as they can also file a candidature for the particular vice president or president's post, that election. So these are the exemptions which are needs to be remembered for the exam point of view. Now there are some questions regarding office of profit, and among them one of the UPSC 2013, when UPSC asked that in the context of I am reading this question, in the context of the India, which of the following principles is or are implied institutionally in the parliamentary government? So this is the question. The first statement, member of the cabinet are the member of the parliament. Then ministers had the office till they enjoy confidence of the parliament. Cabinet is headed by the head of the state. So in this question we can see there are three given statement, and we have to check the principle whether they are following the principle implied institutionally in the parliamentary government. So question is from the parliamentary government. This is very, very important. The members of the cabinet are the members of the parliament. It is true and correct. Now we have to examine the statement number 2. Ministers had the office till they enjoy confidence of the parliament. This is again true, because in the case of now recently that happened in the state of Jharkhand, then the chief minister had gone for, the entire party and alliance gone for the confidence motion, so that they can reinstate that their government is stable and they are under no threat of disability, or they are not in the brink of collapsing of the government. So, obviously that is proved, and so that issue, or that the current or that old water become pacified. So, this is very important, that ministers had the office till they enjoy confidence of the parliament. It is correct. Cabinet is headed by the head of the state. So, cabinet is headed by the head of state. Our head of state is president. Is it this? So, it is incorrect, because cabinet is headed by the prime minister. This is important for the parliamentary government. So, these are the statements which is need to be think of. Now, select the correct code, the 1 and 2 only, 3, C is 2 and 3 only, 1, 2 and 3. So, obviously the answer is 1 and 2, A for Allahabad. Now, the next question which I framed for you, I reads that consider the following statements regarding office of profit. So, statement number 1, opinion of Election Commission of India on the matter of disqualification is binding in nature. The statement here is whether you need to examine whether the opinion of ECI, Election Commission of India, is binding in nature. Now, second statement is office of profit is elaborated or defined under the Representation of People Act 1951, but not in the Constitution of India. Now, select the correct code from the below, 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. So, this question I am not going to tell you what is the correct answer here or going to be, but I am going to assign you the task that you have a look and go through the Bare Act and some basic books like Lakshmikant, so that you can get a right answer for this particular question. But I will give you some hint that opinion of Election Commission of India on the matter of disqualification is binding in nature. Let us take the Article 193 and Article 103 from the Bare Act, where subclause 2 states that the government, like governor in the state and president in the center, has to consult the ECI, that means Election Commission of India, as well as he or she has to work accordingly the opinion of Election Commission of India. So, that is one of the hint. You please go through that Bare Act and that particular article of the Constitution of India. That is for the one. I would suggest you to go through the 103 article and 103. So, these two articles. For the second statement, office of profit is elaborated under Representation of People Act, but not in the Constitution of India. So, again I will ask you to please go through the Article 192 and Article 102. I hope you will get a correct answer and you could able to find this. So, this is all about office of profit. Okay. Now, next topic for today, that is freebies and section 19123 of the RPA 1951. Recently, we have seen the issue of freebies very much in the news. Everybody is talking about this particular issue. So, whether it is issue or something good for us, that is need to be examined and scrutinized. But here we need to look some constitutional, some legal provisions. Those are very important for our exams, that is for the civil services exam, but not for the any political or politicizing the issue. Since UPSC or any state commissions, PCS are not interested in asking these particular perspective, whether any parties or any other political involvements are there, but they are interested in asking what are the legal and constitutional provisions, or what are the opinion of the Supreme Court of India or Election Commission of India or Reserve Bank of India, that are going to be important for us. So let us see what is the freebies and how it implicates the section 123, or it may invoke the section 123 of the Representation of People Act 1951. First of all, where it's going to be important, obviously it's going to be important for the GS paper 2 and prelims examination. How and why this is had been in the news? Because recently 3 judge benches were appointed by the CJI N.V. Ramana before he before he demitted his high office. Then he was very much in the news because of having a strong say and opinion regarding freebies. So before demitting the office, he appointed 3 judge benches to review the verdict on the poll promises. So what were the poll promises and what was that judgment? Then we see that that judgment particular was the S. Subramaniam Balaji case to 2013. In this case, what Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court of India stated that and observed, this is important, that promises in election manifesto cannot be construed as corrupt practices under section 123 of the RPA 1951. So what it means? That election manifesto, we all know that poll promises, in another term, that not going to be construed or that will not be considered as a corrupt practices. In this particular judgment, Supreme Court in the year 2013 have observed. But before that, we need to understand what is going to be a corrupt practices. Corrupt practices are termed as the, if there is issue of bribery, undue influences, that is something like asking or favoring, ask a favor to vote for particular, suppose any particular religion on the basis of religion, caste or creed. If any candidate, those are going to contest election, whether that is MLA or MP, he cannot or she cannot ask a people to favor in the name of that is religion, caste or creed. We know that in India that is very much prevalent, directly or indirectly. And anti-promotion, none of the any candidate can promote any kind of or means of hatred to threat a people or ask a vote in the lieu of any some particular promises or any something that is going to implicate the result of the election. And the false publication, any false presentation of data or any achievements that haven't ever took place across the any surface or any domain, that cannot be published or that will amount to be a false publication. So if these are the issues, then it will be termed as the corrupt practices according to the section 123 RPA 1951. This was observed by the Honorable Supreme Court in this particular Subramaniam Balaji case 2013. Now disqualification under the section will invoked if these kind of practices have been done or that if that found to be true. It is very important because Supreme Court in its opinion willing to know that, or actually Supreme Court wanted to elaborate or raise the horizon of the definition of corrupt practices. And obviously when judgment will come, again it will be again a limelight, then and that time we will discuss that particular topic. But here we can conclude from this understanding or this opinion of Supreme Court or that review bench is that the freebies and election manifesto and associated corrupt practices are going to be one of the serious concern for our electoral democracy, and for that matter Supreme Court is one of the wing which try to ensure the check and balances in our Indian polity. So this is important, and that will be very important for the mains perspective as well. And obviously irrational freebies captures board bank, that pushes to the bankruptcy. So these are the issues which are very going to be important for us. In recent times we have seen that how this going to be a very issue, because some of the state are on the brink of economic disability. Despite of that, they are reluctant to give a promises and provide a freebies. So what is a freebie? That is need to be understood well. So let's move with the what is freebie. This term freebie can be defined as the term freebie on its own means something given out for the free. Something given out for free is something a very much generic definition or generic statement. So we'll try to observe the statements given by some of our FX bodies of the country. One of them is the Election Commission of India. What Election Commission of India has said? It said that there is no precise definition of the word freebie and irrational freebies, and that the terms are subjective and open to interpretation. During Subramaniam Balaji case 2013 hearing, Supreme Court also asked the opinion of Election Commission of India and RBI as well regarding to the definition of freebies. In that particular judgment, while hearing, the Supreme Court stated like this. Now, Election Commission of India further told the Supreme Court that freebies could be considered a life and economic savior during dire times, that is hard, tough times, such as natural disaster and the pandemics like COVID-19 or any natural disaster like earthquake or landslide or any flood like situation. Then Election Commission of India trying to give an interpretation that freebies to be understood, that depends on the context and timing. Means what is the timing that prevalent during that particular time while deciding that providing something for the free. That timing is important, and the context for the what particular reason or what particular objective that is providing. So this is important according to the Election Commission of India as they told to the Supreme Court. For example, to elaborate this, that during a pandemic, provision of free food grains, free vaccines cannot be put under the freebies category, but the same in normal situation can be termed a freebie. So very specifically Supreme as ACI, Election Commission of India that told to the Supreme Court that when it is provided during the normal times, then it can be called as a freebie, but during the special circumstances or any disaster or any issues like pandemic, then it cannot be termed as a freebies. So that is very clear from the stand of Election Commission of India regarding freebies. Now the next important statement that is given by the RBI or Reserve Bank of India. First, Reserve Bank of India observed that central expenditure, that is like public distribution system, employment guarantee schemes like MG Narega or Manrega at that time, and education and healthcare facilities are not considered freebies. Here we need to have a common sense that education, healthcare facilities or MG Narega, that is schemes for the rural employment guarantee scheme for the 100 days of job guarantee for the manual and unskilled laborers. In the view of RBI, these are not going to be these should not be termed as a freebies. Why? Because these are ultimately going to generate the economy as through the, let's example, we can take of Narega, that if any person from the downtrodden society of the country, if he is getting or she is getting the employment and out of that the income generation is taking place, obviously he or she will spend that particular money for that essentials, and obviously that will ultimately lead to the domino effect in the economy. That means they will go to the market to purchase, and if they are going to the purchase, then obviously production will be increased to supply their demands. So ultimately it will benefit to the economy. And the same with the education and healthcare. If people are good, if they are healthy enough, if they are educated and skilled, so obviously they will be seen as the human capital of the country. So they are no more will be, or they will not be the burden for the state or the government. Ultimately they will become a productive to the state in return. So these are going to be important. That's why in the view of RBI, these initiatives or these welfare schemes are not considered to be freebies. Now, what is going to be important here, that what are the implications that is need to be understand, that potentially undermine credit culture, distort prices through cross subsidization, eroding incentives for the private investment, and disincentivize work at the current wage rate, leading to a drop in labor force participation. Though it means the credit culture will be discouraged, it may distort the prices. Suppose how it will take place, that if suppose in the PDS system the grains are being provided at the very low cost or in the subsidized cost, that is 3 rupees per kg rice. In market, the rice, the value of rice for the single kg may be around 30, 40 or 50 rupees. So obviously the market will be discouraged, and that will ultimately lead to the distortion of price. So these kind of implications can be happening in our country, across our economy. So these are some of the implications regarding freebie. So we need to understand it. Now, in the previous year, UPSC had asked the question. I'll reading this question, that if a commodity is provided free to the public by the government, then option 1, opportunity cost is 0. Second, the opportunity cost is ignored. Third, the opportunity cost is transferred from the consumers of the product to the tax paying public. The fourth, the opportunity cost is transferred from the consumers of the product to the government. Before getting into this question, here important term is the opportunity cost that we need to understand. The opportunity cost, it's simply, suppose this is the amount 10 rupee, and one has to choose the alternatives. There are various options, like this 10 rupees can have a tea, cup of tea, or one can give a fare to auto wala to reach somewhere, or to buy or purchase a pen. Suppose that 10 rupees is spent to have a tea, chai, then the alternatives, or where 10 rupees can be used for, or that can be used, then if decision is taken to have a tea out of that 10 rupees, but what could be other things or alternatives that can also be chosen for. So that is the buying a pen or pairing the auto to reach somewhere. Then we can see here that pen may be much important than the tea, because if you are the student, if you are the aspirant, you can use the pen to write, make a notes or anything. So these loss, or the loss in simple terms, opportunity cost is the loss of benefit due to choosing or taking a decision. Now, in terms of Indian economy, how it can be understand? Now, how it can be better to get in? That suppose government is providing a subsidized rice, that is in for the just 3 rupees per kg, but that is the price in the ration shops, but government is purchasing that particular rice from the market or from the farmers, maybe in the cost of 20 rupees per kg or maybe in the 30 rupees per kg. So that 30 rupees are spent, that being spent for the purchasing of rice by the government, and government is providing just at the rupee 3, means 27 rupees are being spent by the government to provide the subsidy for the PDS system under National Food Security Act 2013. So this 27 rupees can be spent somewhere else, maybe in the education, maybe in the health protection. So this is something known as the opportunity cost, or it termed as a loss in the economic perspective. And here question that the commodity is provided free, then obviously that price is being borne by somebody else. It may be government, it may be taxpayers. So this is important, that's why UPSC asked this question. Then obviously opportunity cost is 0. No, this is not going to be happen. The opportunity cost is ignored, again it is incorrect. The opportunity cost is transferred from the consumers of the product to the tax paying public. So this is going to be correct, because in India the revenue of the government, where taxpayers money is one of the that land share they are providing to the government in form of revenue, and that revenue is being utilized by the government to the providing that subsidized. So in Indian context this is correct. The fourth statement, for the sake of understanding, the opportunity cost is transferable from the consumers of the product to the government. So this is directly happening, but in the real in Indian scenario, government is not going to have that to bear that particular cost of the opportunity, that opportunity cost, but it is being paid by the tax paying public. So this is very much important, and how UPSC is framing the questions, that needs to be understood. Now next topic is Aashwasan campaign. So it has been in the news since long, from the beginning of this year, and this is particularly for the TB free tribes for a TB free India. So this is one of the slogan by the government of India. Then Aashwasan campaign was to just screen the about over 1 crore persons in the 174 tribal districts. So this is important for the exam point of view, particularly in the prelims. And the second, door to door screening, that to cover about 68,000 plus villages in across various states, and there is a positive rate of 9,971 people. We will look, these were the highlights of the Aashwasan campaign, and find out of this particular Aashwasan campaign, that is 100 days long campaign. what are the important facts regarding this? The significance of this Aashwasan campaign is that is going to be for the GS paper 2, GS paper 3 and the prelims as well. Very first thing is that it was a 100 days door-to-door screening under Tribal TB initiative. So, Tribal TB initiative, that was the name, but it was a joint initiative of the Ministry of Tribal and the Health Affairs and the Welfare of Women. So, these two ministries jointly undertook this particular Aashwasan campaign, and particularly to find the active TB cases across major hotbeds or hotspots of the TB. According to the government, about 174 districts were identified as the epicenter of TB incidences and its prevalence. So, government focused was to screen or to find out the cases, new cases, because it was the ultimately the TB free India to be by 2025. So, this is one of the vision of the government, and for that matter government took this initiative. And what is important, these are for the just prelims point of view, we will discuss later on particularly for the mains perspective. Now, we need to understand here the term incidence. Now, what is high incidence? Incidence, two things are incidence, that is the new cases, and prevalence is another term, that is for the total cases or existing. So, these two terms are generally used, and for the incidences, particularly for the new cases, those were detected, and prevalence for the total cases or existing cases plus new incidences is known as the prevalence. So, how much it is spread, that means the prevalence, how it is widespread, and the incidence means the new cases which were detected, that means the incidence. So, in all samples that were taken, then in India they found that about 9,971 new cases were detected. So, this was the finding of this Aashwasan campaign. Now, what is another finding that is very much important for the exam point of view is that drug resistance TB or extensive drug resistance TB or XD resistance. This is very much important. What means the drug resistance? The TB treatment is about 6 month long course. No, that particular anti bacterial or antibiotics are given. Then first line of treatment is these two medicines, that is isoniazid and rifampicin. So, these two drugs are important, and these across the country are administered or now prescribed for the treatment of the TB. But in India, due to unawareness of the people, they are not completing that 6-month course of having the antibiotics, these particular two names, and due to that the resistance of bacteria, that mycobacterium, the TB causing bacteria, become a more strong and robust. So, it is actually hampering the treatment or curing of the TB issue across the country. This is one of the biggest issue, and in India about 25 or more than 25 or about 27%, if to be precise, population of total population across the globe. Out of total TB affected people, India only accounts for 27% or more than, or we can say the 1/4 of the population TB affected people are in India. So, this is one of the bigger challenge for our country, that TB can be termed as the pandemic, and it is high death causing. About various diseases, like if HIV that AIDS disease, when these people, AIDS infected person, if they contract with the TB case, then it become a very much fatal. It's really increase the mortality rate. So this is one of the issue, and that's why government is very much conscious about this issue and concerning. And the TB to be, there is a detect, drug and prevent, means first of all to prevent, thereafter to detect or accelerate the diagnostic system, and thereafter if they are found with the TB cases, then that provided with the drug or medicines to cure for that. So this is the strategy of the government, which we can understand through this three-prong approach. Now here is one of the diagram, that how, because TB is because of the microbiome bacteria, that Mycobacterium tuberculosis is the name of the TB causing bacteria, and that affects the lungs. So if that affects the lung, so it generally causes a chronic cough with the blood containing mucus. So this is one of the issue, and that leads to the pneumonia and even to the death of that person. So this is the issue, how TB generally affects or it works if it affecting any people. So this is need to be understand. Now questions regarding this kind of topic, how UPSC have framed. In the year 2014, we have seen that one of the question, I am taking the example of the 2014, that question was that consider the following disease. Now 3 diseases were given, like diphtheria, chickenpox and smallpox. Then statement was that which of the above disease has or have been eradicated from India. So obviously the disease diphtheria is not eradicated from India, it is still prevailing, so it is not. Chickenpox again not. The smallpox was the only disease that was eradicated, as well as now the polio eradicated from India, but again some strains and cases of polio in some sewage in the Calcutta or some metro cities are also found. So this is again the concern, but officially polio is eradicated from India. In that year the smallpox was the only option, that is correct. So option B was the correct, but it may be asked that we need to update it that polio is also eradicated from the India. So these 2 disease completely eradicated from India. So now we are also that government of India is targeting or aiming to eradicate the issue of TB, so that we can become a TB free country. Now the question what I have framed here, that find the incorrect statement. The first statement was the world TB elimination place is coterminous with the SDG goal. Is it that? Now second, India accounts for more than half TB disease burden of the total. The Budgam is the first, that is a district in the Jammu and Kashmir, is the first TB free district of India. The fourth statement, government provides incentives of the Rupee 500 under the Nikshay Poshan Abhiyan. So these are the 4 statements. Now we need to find a incorrect statement. So I am going to leave up to you that you please read this question carefully and answer the correct and find out the correct answer. That means the incorrect statement among these 4 given statements. So you can please comment answer in the comment box of this, but this video, so that we can give you the feedback that whether it is correct or incorrectly attempted. So this is the task I am assigning to you all. Now next topic is the Jezero crater, very interesting, that this is utility for this particular topic is obviously for the GS paper 3, when science and technology is one of the subtopic, and obviously for the prelims. What is important, that Jezero is a depression in the Mars. We know that it is one of the planet of the solar system, we all know, and the depression, that means the it means the depression is a low lying place. It is known as the depression. Now, how that depression formed? So, name is the crater. Crater, that means that was hit or struck by some meteoroids or any celestial object. So, it means the depression. So, depression, that because of the striking of the any meteors to the surface of Mars, it created the depression, that is known as the crater. We also know the crater in our country, that is the Lonar crater in the Maharashtra, the meteorite that hit that region of Maharashtra, and that become a lake, Lonar lake. So, that is one of the crater. So, these are the examples, and in the Mars, that is there are also various craters, and one of that crater is Jezero. Why it is important? Because the Perseverance rover, the Mars exploration program that undertaken by the NASA, and this particular rover is actually examining or studying this particular crater. So, that is why this is in the news. And before that, we have seen that Gale crater was examined by the Curiosity, though it was the program earlier prior to the Perseverance, this rover, that mission, and it also studied the crater, and they found the some. Now, what is important here, that this particular Curiosity, that was also a rover, and that was to study that this Curiosity rover is still under the way, it is still operating and intact according to the NASA statement, and this is to understand the meteorology, that means the atmospheric science of the Mars as well as the mineralogy. This was the purpose or objective of the Curiosity rover that launched or that started its operation in the year 2012. So, in the year 2012, the Gale crater was the region or domain of the study of the Curiosity. That is need to be also remembered. But now, since last February 2021, Perseverance rover in the action, and they has to study the searching for the life. This is important, that they are trying to find the traces of life in the Mars. Why NASA is emphasizing to find the Mars? Because NASA has some future programs to send the crew members into the Mars. Till the date, none of the any country or space agencies have sent any Mars or main or crew or any person crew mission to the Mars, but NASA is targeting or aiming to send the crew mission. So, obviously, they wanted to trace, they wanted to assess the entire possibility of life in the Mars, and particularly any microbial existence if this particular Perseverance rover may find. Along with the Perseverance, another helicopter like that device is there, that is known as the Ingenuity. So, this is again important. So, we will try to look further in the slide but how it is looks like. These are the Perseverance is a rover, and Ingenuity is a helicopter like device, or it's that particular kind of equipment to it can fly over and take the pictures and videos according to the NASA statement, and the Perseverance can that can roll to the roll out to the entire surfaces. So it is kind of a car like equipment, and it is designed to take the pictures and assess the samples from the particular area. That is particularly you can see the Jezero crater. So this is about the perseverance and ingenuity. What ultimately what is the objective? To find the life or microbial existence in the Mars. So now back to the previous slide. Here that the perseverance rover, this perseverance rover find recently it found that volcanic rock olivine, and it found in the pristine condition. That means the intact condition, no weathering or erosion kind of. Pristine means no erosion or weathering kind of any action took place over that particular olivine rock. So it is suggesting that in the Mars there were no such or no much weathering or erosion still took place. So that is one of the finding, and it found that olivine of about 4 billion of that old. So how olivine is important, we need to understand, and it may be the question in the UPSC. It may be potential. So let us look into the olivine. First of all, what is olivine? Olivine, this is, I am not trying to give you some complicated, my purpose is not to give you the complication of this and or create a complication, but to for the better understanding, I am here to give you some. Okay, let us see the olivine. The olivine is a mineral, that rock forming mineral. Generally it is abundant of the like Mg to Si4 or Fe to Si4. This is the composition of the olivine. That means it is a magnesium, it along with the iron as well as the magnesium, but it is a magnesium dominated mineral. That means it is the mafic mineral. Okay. Now the olivine, what is the character of olivine? This is the Bowen reaction series, especially to understand the Bowen, the Canadian petrologist, means rock specialist. We know, we say the petrologist to the rock specialist. Bowen stated it that especially he designed this Bowen this reaction series or this diagrammatic representation or illustration to give the insight about why some of the rocks always found together. So he suggested that this is because of that crystallization process. Why I am giving you the Bowen reaction series here, to understand that why olivine was found, because this is the temperature about more than 1400 degrees Celsius, and this is the temperature about that is more than 600 degrees Celsius. Crystallization means solidification of that magma or lava. Olivine is the rock forming mineral that generally in our earth is found from the volcanic eruptions. That means it is one of the mantle, it generally found in the upper mantle and associated with the basalt or gabbro. These are the rocks generally come out or erupted from the mantle by means of volcanism. So this is the olivine and what is important about the olivine, that it generally crystallize at very high temperature. Crystallization means cooling down. So it has that tendency to cooling down even in the higher temperature. It means that it has a very higher melting point. So even in the 14 degrees Celsius it can cooled, it can be cooled. But some rocks like quartz or muscovite, here are the lower no, bottom in this diagram, they are only meant to be it means is a high melting point, but the quartz, suppose if you are taking the example, so lowest melting point according to the Bowen reaction series. So what it means that it has a higher melting point, and that's why it is the rock. If now we need to imagine that when Big Bang took place and suppose to 3.8 around 3.8 billion years ago, then the sun and the entire solar system that underway the formation, and earth formed about 4.6 billion years ago, we all know. So earth was not solid as today we are able to see, but it was in the gaseous, then after the gaseous formation it was in the melting or liquid form. Then the olivine was the one of the first minerals to solidify in that condition. So this is important, that we can conclude here that olivine may be one of the earliest rock forming mineral in the mass. And in earth we know that in the area of Australia, zircon, one of the that particular mineral is found that is one of the oldest. That age of that zircon was the 4 billion years. Zircon, in various state commission exams this has been in the ask, so it is also need to be remembered. And regarding olivine, it is again one of the oldest, because it is first to crystallize, first to cool down, and that's why these rocks can be traced through the some radioactive dating or some other tools of the scientific measurement of the date or date analysis. So scientists or generally geologists had found that olivine was one of the oldest rock, because it is the mineral which has the tendency to cool down first. So this is how that Bowen reaction series is important to be understand. So this was my purpose, to give you the insight about the why olivine is important. And apart from that, olivine is important recently for the climate change, to address mitigate the issue of climate change. Now we see how the olivine is a green colored mineral, yellow to green color mineral. So olivine recently in the climate change, scientists have found that it actually accelerate the weathering. What it means, the accelerate the weathering? It means it work as a catalyst to initiate chemical or binding or reaction. It means that if suppose now how this rock will be important for the climate change mitigation. Suppose there is a CO2 in our atmosphere, and in our oceans, suppose this is the ocean body of water, then these rocks suppose are there placed here olivine, then CO2 and other rocks, that other carbonate rocks will generally erode, CO2 will erode this particular rock. When this olivine along with some other rock of the ocean, generally calcareous or any carbonate rock, then it will be weathered and it will dissolve into the water. Dissolution will take place. What will happen then? That this dissolution will lead to the carbon sequestration. This term is very important, carbon sequestration. That means storing of the carbon in the ocean or water bodies. So all the atmospheric CO2, which is one of the major cause of concern for the global warming, because excessive CO2 can lead to the ultimately warm up to the our atmosphere, and that will lead to the global warming. So that is what olivine is going to be very crucial, and it may be the potential question in UPSC, and we can also quote in our answer while writing mains. So this is what very important term is accelerated or accelerating weathering, climate change mitigation that dissolve the CO2 when it reacts with the olivine and other rocks of the ocean or water bodies, that ultimately lead to the carbon sequestration or that storing of the carbon into the oceanic waters or oceanic rocks, that ultimately form to the carbonate rocks and or carbonate minerals, and that ultimately lead to the mitigation of climate change issue. That means the CO2 will be somehow removed from or reduced from the atmosphere. So this is what the olivine is important, and how it can be going for important for our examination point of view as well. So this is all about the olivine. Now another thing we have seen that before discussing about olivine, that the perseverance rover aiming to searching for life. So this is very much important, because in here the term Goldilocks zone, I have taken this image from the NASA website, that what is the Goldilocks zone and what it means and how it correlates to the searching for the life of that particular endeavor of the as we have seen the perseverance is doing so. The Goldilocks zone, as NASA states here, I am going to read it, that part of the hunt, this is means the exploring, but water on other worlds means what it means. If water is there, then obviously there will be some trace of life. That means the looking for planets orbiting a certain distance from their stars. Planets in this zone are neither too hot nor too cold. Conditions which could be just right for the liquid water. That means there may be life. As we imagine of our Earth average temperature is 15 degrees Celsius, overall average temperature. Optimum temperature, what we also termed as. Then this is liquid water can be seen in our tap, in every pond, in our oceans, we can, in rivers we can see the liquid water. Why it is there? Because our Earth is neither too hot nor too cold. So it is habitable. That it means it is habitable. So that's why life is there, and that's why we are unique. And NASA, not only NASA but other agencies, our ISRO and European Space Agencies, or JAXA in Japan, they all are also trying to find out the traces of life. Recently we have seen the James Webb Telescope, that is again very important for the exam point of view, but adhering to our topic here, we are not going to discuss now James Webb Telescope, but the habitable in the pursuing or in the exploring or in the hunt for habitable planet, our scientists or astronomers in particular are also trying to locate or trace the planets. Those are in across our universe, or maybe in the galaxy itself. So that is very much important. And Goldilocks zone was asked in the UPSC's previous year question. In the I think, if I am not forgetting, that was the year 2013 or 14, that what is the Goldilocks zone. So this is very important to understand, that the Goldilocks zone is the we can understand through this. The Goldilocks zone, like our Earth is there, that the distance from sun, and that's why this is not too much in our Earth is too much hot or too much cold. So obviously that become a one of the reason for the genesis of the life in our Earth, that took place about 3.6 billion years ago. Now in order to hunt for the habitable zone apart from our Earth, NASA scientists have found the Kepler 186f. This is one of the planet they found. within our galaxy system, that is we know as the Milky Way or Akash Ganga in Hindi, then Kepler 186 system, they have said that, this is again the picture I have image taken from the NASA website, that this particular solar system that form of one sun in the middle like our solar system and comprises of 4 other planets, including the 5 planets including the Kepler 186 system. So, this F is the Kepler 186, and this is about 1.5 times larger than, according to the NASA, this is about 1.5 times larger than our Earth, according to the NASA finding, and they are of the view that in this Kepler 186F there may be the traces of the life. So, this is important for our exam, for the UPSC, and that is going to be important. And what are the statement given by the NASA? I would like to read here that the Kepler 186F resides in the Kepler 186 system, okay, about 500 light years from the Earth. This is the distance from the Earth, so it's very much far from the our Earth. In the constellation Cygnus, Cygnus is a constellation of the star, that is the name. The system is also home to 4 companion planets, obviously 5, as we have studied that 5 stars, 5 planets are there which orbit a star half the size and mass of the our sun. Obviously the smaller system, or we can say the solar system, the star is classified as M dwarf, red dwarf, a class of stars that makes up 70% of the star in the Milky Way. This is again the important finding of the NASA, or a statement or observation of the NASA, that 70% of our Milky Way galaxy stars are the dwarf or red dwarf planet, red dwarf stars. So, these are the red dwarfs or smaller stars, those are actually, and these are the majority, they can be found in the majority in our Milky Way galaxy. So, one of that is that Cygnus. So, this is important. Now, next topic, and before going to the next topic, the question we need to now look into that how UPSC is framing the question. In the year 2014, I am giving that previous year question, which of the following pairs is or are correctly matched? The spacecraft and the purpose. This was the question. So, here the Cassini-Huygens, the spacecraft, and the matching part of that, the purpose was that orbiting the Venus and transmitting data to Earth. Second, the messenger, again the spacecraft of the NASA, mapping and investigating the Mercury. And the third, Voyager 1 and 2, exploring the outer solar system. So, what could be a right answer? So, we can eliminate here. Please, I would like to urge you all that please look into the missions or future missions of the NASA, European Space Agency, besides the ISRO's future projects, which are this question, because UPSC previous year questions are I would say these are also act as a guide for the our preparation, means any aspirant who is preparing. So, he or she must go through the previous year questions apart from the syllabus. So, these are very going to provide that blueprint or path, so that our effort will be the lesser, and in the that means the input output ratio will be better. So, Cassini-Huygens, the mission, it was the mission, but it is not to orbit the Venus or transmitting data to Earth, but it is to the Titan, one of the moon of the Saturn. So, Titan is a moon of the Saturn, and this was the question. Obviously, the Cassini-Huygens is not the the correct matching for this statement 1. So obviously these are correct, 2 and 3. So obviously answer will be the B, 2 and 3. So this is how, now that's how UPSC generally frame the questions. Now next question what I have framed for you is that question is, consider the statement with reference to the South Pole Aitken Basin situated in the moon. So Aitken Basin situated in the moon. So again it means the basin, again the depression, it means the crater. The first statement is that it is the largest known impact crater in not only in the moon but entire solar system. Second statement, Chang'e 4, that is a Chinese mission, become the first spacecraft to land over it. First spacecraft. The second, the Galileo space probe mission was first discoverer of the Aitken crater. So I will not going to give you the answer here. I want you to please to try to solve this question, and you can comment the answer in the comment box so that we can give you some feedback obviously, and it is task for you. So I'd like to try to attempt this particular question. Now the last or our final topic for the today's discussion session is the mutual military disengagement under the process post 16 round of talks. So Sino India border conflicts or skirmishes have been in the news, and the importance of that, the UPSC questions that is based on the mapping or geographical locations, and this is very much important particularly for the prelims point of view, but it can be also incorporated, these ideas or information can be also quoted in the mains, particularly in the international relations or in the geography questions. Suppose the questions of the frontier on borders, particularly in the geography options. So these are important, but particularly in the GS paper 2, it is going to be important for the international. What are the point of interest? We are going to discuss the Galwan Valley, Galwan River, Shiok River, Pangong So, Gobra Hot Spring, Depshang Plain, Nubra Valley, Siachen Glacier, Akshay Chin, line of actual control, Ladakh Range, Karakoram Range, and Chushul Moldo border. So here I am not going to discuss one by one, but I would like to, I'll try to give you the some insight through the map, and these are the important the point of or sites, those had been in the news. So I'd urge you to please go through or just go by the some Google search or other searches, and get the idea of this particular, and make the at least 20-30 notes, particularly for the prelims point of view. So these 30 to 40 words are enough for this particular points, and this is also important that the perspective of these topics should be the geographical in the aspect, not any political or other, but that should be the completely geography basis. So let us try to see what are the issues. Here as we have seen that I'll try to give you some idea that this blue part is Siachen Glacier. So we can see this is the northernmost one of the, how we can see this is the northernmost region of the country. If we try to see now, thereafter we can see just below that the Nubra Valley. This is very much important. There is again the Nubra river is also flowing there, and just below that the Leh, city of Leh is there. So these are the three things. Now we can see just west of that is the Kargil, and west of the Kargil is the Jojila or Jojila Pass. We are we know that one of the tunnel is under construction to across this Srinagar, Kargil and Leh route, that is in the Jezero Pass. So this is important for the exam. And now we have to see the another thing. There is a Karakoram Pass. We can see the pass which is connecting India or Leh Ladakh part from the Tibetan part of the China. Now Depsang La is again, La means pass, and it is the valley just south of Karakoram. We can see here no Karakoram Pass or Karakoram mountain is here, and the Depsang La is situated just south of Karakoram, and in the red part we can see entirely it is the Aksai Chin, the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, that is the Baltistan or Gilgit Baltistan, and here the petrol point 14, and the important is the Galwan Valley. We have seen in the year 2020 we have seen the bloody clash that took place, in which clash we have lost the brave soldiers, including one of the colonel level officer, and that's why the Galwan Valley is very much in the news, and that Galwan river is again there. So Galwan river that originates from this Karakoram, eastern side of the Karakoram, but it is a tributary of the Syok river. The Syok river, we know that it originates from the tributary of the Syok, and the Syok is a tributary of again Indus. So this is important. So these are the rivers of Indus Basin, and the Syok, this is the river where Galwan river, the Galwan river that forms the Galwan Valley, and Galwan river is a tributary of Syok river, and Syok rivers originate from the that is from the one of the glacier, that is the Rimu glacier. So this is important. I hope I am naming the correctly. I would like to check here the okay, give me just a minute. So okay, this is all about that is to be remembered, that this, I hope I am not incorrect. The name of the glacier from where Syok originates is the Remo glacier, and you can please cross check. And okay, moving ahead, the Pangong So lake, it is a lake, and this lake is situated just here, and about 50% of the lake portion goes to the Aksai Chin, that means that is occupied by the Chinese control area, and India's the rest of the 40% with the India, though the rest 10% is the disputed area of the lake. So this lake is one of the key conflicting zone, or 10% area is under the dispute of this particular lake. Obviously, the important about the Pangong So or Pangong Lake is that it is one of the indoor indoor creek. That means the lake is something which is there is no outlet of the any water. That means this is the endoric lake, and it is saline lake. That means it is one of the containing the brackish water. So it is not the freshwater lake. So this is again important. I have seen I hope you also might have seen that questions from previous year UPSC CSE, that Lake Didwana, what is that? That kind of question asked, that Lake Didwana is saline lakes in the Rajasthan. So that was the correct answer. So simply they can also put you that that Pangong So is a freshwater lake or saline water. So please remember that this is a brackish water lake. And Pangong So is very important, that like we have the example of Caspian Sea, where rivers like Volga or Ural rivers are flowing, or they are debauching their water in the Caspian Sea. but the none of the water that comes out from the Caspian Sea. So that is the landlocked or the water body which is Indoric or Indoric. That means the no outlet of the water. Similarly, Pangong Tso has no outlet. Earlier the Syok that the outlet of the Pangong Tso was there, and that goes to the Syok river, but due to some natural damming or the accumulation of debris or natural the regoliths, that become checked and Pangong Tso become cut off from any basin. So this is not come under the river basin of the Indus. So Pangong Tso is completely isolated lake. And then again Syok river is important, which is very much important. Apart from that, if I am making here, then we can see Leh is there. So these are the important points which is need to be, and always remember the line of control that is dividing India and Pakistan after the Simla agreement, and this is the line of actual control here. Sorry, this is a line of actual control. We will see in the further diagram. Here the line of actual control and the this is given here, that the actual line of control which this come into picture after the 1962 war, India-Pakistan war, and that boundary is there. But it's still we need to understand why this is the issue. Apart from these are the some of the diagram again. The exact name from where the Galwan river emerges is the Sambungling. That name is the Sambungling. So we can also remember it, that name of the Samjungling, that is the eastern Karakoram region. So Galwan, because it became the epicenter of tension between the India and China, so that has been in the news. So they can UPSC may ask the question. Now we need to understand what is the issue. Now these are the why the India and China issues are not settled. So we need to understand. I'd like to try to give you some idea about why this is the issue. I hope you might have heard about the border. Let us take the red. Okay, the border. Another is frontier. Before getting to that, we'll see the historical perspective later on. Before that, we get into the geographical understanding about border and frontier. Border is a term, or border is an entity or demarcation, that is, in the simple term, demarcation of line or area. That means the clear cut, I will use this term, clear cut demarcation or well defined. This means the border. Frontier is a entity or geographical entity which is not well defined demarcation. So obviously frontier, why that kind of situation happen, what I have told you, that frontier, because it is easy or feasibility for the human that demarcate the border, like the border with the India and Pakistan, that is about 4092 or 90, precisely more than 4000 that line of border, that 4000 more than 4000 kilometers of border. that is a plain territory. But yes, even in the across the the Bangladesh, there are some rivers and distributaries. So that become the one of the geographical hurdles. But in case of frontier, there is no clear-cut or defined demarcation of the two boundaries or two geographical entities or two country between them. Like in the earlier times, we have seen that, or even today, like the mighty mountains, Himalayas, where very high peak, more than 4,000, more than 6,000 meters of the peak. So we cannot create or develop or establish the fencing system there. So it is not easy and feasible for the human to demarcate that. So ultimately, we are compelled with to just say that this is the mountain and this side is yours and this side is ours. So that kind of practices had been or have been taking place since earlier. So when Britishers came, they had some limitations to demarcate the boundary, so that they just said that this is the part where British India is there and that part may be the Tibetan. Later on, since China was not a single entity and governed or ruled by various dynasties, so they were not like today as today's present day China. Similarly, India was not like today as a one nation. So different princely states that had been existed. So that is how the problem that is the origin in the historical some issues or historical some incorrectness or historical omission, that is better to be said. So frontier is not defined well. So that is what that this Pangong, so Deepsang La or these Galwan valleys areas are the frontier areas. So still that's why still now till the date both countries are trying diplomatically and through the some diplomatic channel they are trying to solve the issues that have been since the past and for the very long time. So this is all about the issues with the China. Now recently in the year 2020, UPSC asked that Siachen Glacier is situated to the east of Aksai Chin, east of Leh, north of Gilgit, north of Nubra Valley. So this question is completely based on the mapping, and even that time this area where was in the news, so that's why UPSC tended to ask this question. So correct answer here is the east of Leh. Oh, sorry, 1 minute. The correct answer here is the Siachen Glacier, as we have seen the north of Nubra Valley. Nubra Valley, I would like to see you. I want to see you that this is the Nubra Valley and this is the Siachen. So Nubra Valley or Siachen Glacier is the where situated? North of Nubra Valley. So this was the question. So answer here is north of Nubra Valley. So 4 is correct. Now I am giving you the task here that consider the following statement: river Nubra originates from Siachen Glacier. Second statement: Pangong Tso is a part of Indus River system or river basin. Third is the Kongoka Pass connects India with the Myanmar, and Galwan River. Last statement is the Galwan River originates from Eastern Karakoram range. So the question is how many statements given above is or are correct. So only 1, only 2, only 3, or 4. So this is something in the line or align with that idea of new type of UPSC questions being asked by the recently in the year 2020. This year itself we have seen that this the pairing and the statements and that identify the correct of the statements among 4, among 3 is a new trend in the UPSC we have seen. So UPSC become day by day more evolved, I would say, not tougher, but yes, there is always the some scope of unpredictably in the UPSC, but it does not means that it asks UPSC asks anything under the sun. It has its own purpose and aim, so that it wants that the officers or the bureaucrats or civil servants those India is going to have in the future are well equipped and well vigilant and well informed. So that is, I think, one of the purpose of the UPSC to ask this kind of questions. So this is very important, and here I would like to conclude today's session with the former British parliamentarian or statesman, the Winston Churchill. He quoted, I quote, that success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. So this is important, and this is going to should be our the word of wisdom or word of inspiration we can took from, and we can keep our journey with all enthusiasm and zeal, so that we can achieve our aim or goal of becoming a civil servant. So that with this note, I would like to thank you all. Thank you for your time.